Welcome, engineers. This is just a real quick explanation of some key terms. I couldn't find a better way to write it, so I just want to lay out this diagram for you real quick. We're talking about conflict, claims, disputes. Just want to show one potential scenario how you might relate those sorts of terms, because sometimes they're used interchangeably. As you see in the study guide above you, conflict is inevitable. It is expected, and it's just a natural part of doing business, natural part of life. So conflict in itself is not bad. As we said, or as I wrote earlier, unresolved conflict is really where the issue comes in. So in a construction conflict, the scenario could go something like this. You've got a conflict between two parties. Most often, let's talk about the owner and the contractor. That's usually who it is. You've got a conflict, and you sit down at the table and maybe you find a way to resolve it. Early resolution, probably well over 90% of our issues are just going to be resolved through day-to-day dialogue, collaboration, communication, compromise, some of those C words you saw earlier in the study guide. And that might result in a change order to the contract, resulting in more payment or more time or something else like that. Now, if you can't get to early resolution, what often happens is both parties go back and one party may file a claim against another. Again, very often that a contractor is going to be the one filing a claim against the owner. Of course, it could go the other way around, I suppose. But when the conflict's unresolved, this is a tool in the toolbox that often gets used. The contractor will file a claim. And so they're formally documenting, hey, owner, I think you owe us more time, more money, or some other form of compensation. One common example is the contractor submits some sort of required submittal, and the owner spends a lot of time reviewing it, doesn't get it back in a timely manner, and the contractor says, "It's slowing me up because you haven't approved my shop drawings for steel," or something like that. And because the owner took so long, at least in the contractor's mind, the contractor gets owed more time on the contract or more money, or often both. So they'll file that official claim, and then they will often sit down and try to resolve it. And a lot of times you can resolve claims. You as the owner may just ultimately reject it, but you may accept it, or you may negotiate some middle ground between the two. And again, that probably will result in a change order to the contract, or maybe some sort of payment or time extension. If you're still at odds and you can't reach resolution and it's big enough and neither party is willing to walk away, then we get to what we are going to call a dispute. Now, this is my sort of layman's explanation. Lawyer might use these terms slightly differently, but at this point, we're going to formally call it a dispute. And then we get into a little bit more formal methods. A lot of times we're bringing in legal counsel and those sorts of things. And then we're talking about bringing in a range of dispute resolution tools. There's really only 4 we're going to talk about in this lesson. So then we could resolve through negotiation. Now, when I say negotiation at this point, I'm really maybe talking about having our attorneys negotiate, but that's not to imply that negotiation doesn't happen throughout the entire process. When there's claims, when there's early conflict, negotiation can happen at multiple levels by multiple parties. But now we're talking about something a little bit more formal. Negotiation fails, then we step down to mediation. That might fail. We could go into either arbitration and or litigation, and we'll explain for what those terms mean in the next block of the lesson. So hopefully that just makes a little bit of a distinction between the terms of conflicts and claims and disputes, and shows you how they might be related in a given conflict. Engineers, lead the way. Thanks for tuning in.